I went to work the night shift to make enough money for my stepson's braces. And the other day he slammed the car door, looked at me with hatred and shouted, "You're just some pathetic guy that Mom gave up on. You're not my father." My wife stood nearby, arms crossed, and calmly said he was just expressing a general opinion. Later that night she whispered to me, "You should be grateful I chose you in the first place." I was pissed off, sleeping on the couch, and they were laughing in the bedroom. I started preparing a response. 2 months later, I started getting messages, "Please, we can't do anything without you." 3 years ago, I walked into a backyard barbecue at my buddy Chris's new place, not expecting anything more than a few beers and some grilled ribs. I definitely wasn't planning to meet someone who'd change my entire life, and not in the way I hoped. Her name was Emma. She was 35 back then, just a year younger than me, newly divorced and trying to pull things together with her son Caleb, who was around 11. She had this soft-spoken, almost fragile energy about her. It wasn't an act. You could tell she'd been through some hard stuff, and it tugged at something in me I didn't even realize was there. We hit it off quickly. She was easy to talk to, kind, laughed at my terrible jokes, and had this way of making me feel like I mattered. Caleb was quiet, kept to himself mostly, but seemed like a decent kid. I wasn't expecting instant bonding or anything. I mean, I was some stranger to him, but he didn't seem hostile either. Emma and I started dating shortly after. Chris tried to warn me not to rush, said I had a tendency to go all in too fast, but I brushed it off. When it feels right, or at least that's what I told myself. 8 months later, we got married. I moved into the house Emma had been renting since her divorce. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like a fresh start. I liked the idea of building something new together. First, things were good. Not perfect, but manageable. Caleb kept his distance. He was polite enough but rarely initiated conversation unless he needed something. I didn't push. I figured he just needed time. I tried to show up in ways that mattered. Rides to soccer practice, help with homework, letting him pick what we watched on movie nights. I even opened a college fund for him. Just $300 a month. But on my salary it was a stretch. Still, I wanted to prove I was serious, not just about Emma, but about being part of their family. Around a year in, the cracks started to show. Little things at first. Emma would forget to transfer her half of the rent or accidentally leave a bill unpaid. Bills in my name, of course. Caleb only seemed to talk to me when he needed money for school or a ride somewhere. I brushed it off. They'd been on their own for a while before me, and maybe they just weren't used to relying on anyone. But it didn't stop. I'd come home after a 10-hour shift to find takeout containers on the counter. None for me, even though I was the one paying for dinner. Caleb would ask for money for emergencies the night before something was due, and Emma would just assume I'd cover it. So I did what I always do. I worked harder, picked up overtime, took side gigs on the weekend, all while Emma talked about looking for something better than her part-time job at a department store that barely covered her gas and salon appointments. Somehow, though, there was always a new purse, new shoes, fresh nails, things I stopped questioning just to avoid conflict. Then 6 months ago, the orthodontist said Caleb needed braces. $2,500 down, $180 a month after that. Insurance covered nothing. Emma looked at me like the decision was obvious. I wasn't going to let the kid's teeth go crooked, so I picked up a second job stocking shelves overnight at a warehouse store. For months, I worked 40 hours at my day job, then another 25 at night. I got home at 3 a.m., slept maybe 4 hours, and started again. I was exhausted, missing meals, falling asleep standing up. I didn't have the energy to go to Caleb's soccer games, or even hold a conversation at dinner. Not that anyone seemed to notice or care. Emma started rolling her eyes more. Caleb barely acknowledged me. I'd walk into a room and conversations would stop. Felt like I was a ghost in my own house. And then came the day everything fell apart. It was a Thursday. I'd just gotten paid and used nearly all of it to catch up on overdue bills, including Caleb's orthodontist payment. That morning, I was driving him to school in the car I made payments on. I tried making small talk, asked about a math quiz he mentioned earlier that week. He just grunted, typical teenager behavior, I figured. When we pulled up to the school, he slammed the car door so hard the entire vehicle shook. I rolled down the window, ready to tell him to chill, when he turned around, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You're just some sad guy my mom settled for. You'll never be my dad." I sat there stunned. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. And then I noticed Emma, standing a few feet away with her arms crossed. She'd gotten a ride from her sister to drop off something Caleb had forgotten. I thought maybe she'd say something. Maybe she'd correct him or at least show a flicker of disapproval. Instead, she just smirked and said, "He's just saying what we're all thinking." Right there, in the school parking lot, with parents and kids walking by. I don't remember driving to work. I just remember sitting in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, trying not to scream. I texted Chris and told him everything. He called me immediately. I couldn't even get the words out without my voice cracking. That night, I got home from my day job, dead on my feet, with a full night shift ahead. Emma acted like nothing happened. Caleb was upstairs on the gaming PC I'd bought him last Christmas. When I brought it up to Emma, she just brushed it off. He's a teenager. They say things. When I pushed about her comment, she got defensive, told me I was too sensitive. Later that night, after my shift, I crawled into bed. She was still awake, scrolling on her phone. She looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe and said, "You're lucky I even married you." Something in me broke. I grabbed my pillow and went to sleep on the couch. I could hear them laughing upstairs at 2 a.m. And right there, lying awake on the couch I paid for in the house I worked myself into the ground to keep, something in me quietly shifted. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. But I started planning. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not Emma, not Caleb, not even Chris. I just started making quiet moves. The very next day, I opened a separate checking account at a bank Emma had never heard of. I changed my direct deposit at work. Took maybe 10 minutes. After that, my paychecks stopped going into the joint account. She didn't notice. Not right away. Not even for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that's how little attention she paid to where the money came from. Meanwhile, I stopped paying for anything that didn't have my name on it. I let the streaming services lapse. The internet bill? Ignored it. I quit the night job too. Just told the manager I couldn't keep doing it for health reasons. He understood. Honestly, I think he saw it coming before I did. My body thanked me immediately. That first night of full sleep? Heaven. But I didn't tell Emma. As far as she knew, I was still working overtime, still coming home late because I was exhausted from providing. In reality, I was crashing at Chris's place a few nights a week, just to breathe. Sometimes I'd sit at the all-night diner and watch shows I'd never had time for. I finally finished that zombie series everyone talked about 2 years ago. It was fine. Not worth losing sleep over, literally. The real turning point came when the bills started piling up. Emma never handled due dates well. She'd always leave it to me. Electric, water, gas, all in my name, all historically paid from my account. Now, they weren't getting paid. I kept a spreadsheet, every utility, every repair, every school supply, every grocery run for 3 years. Want to guess the total? $47,000. That didn't include things like car maintenance or Caleb's orthodontist bills, just household stuff. That spreadsheet became my lifeline. About 17 days after I'd rerouted my paychecks, Emma finally noticed. I got a text while I was at work. "Did you forget the internet bill? Caleb says the connection's out. He has homework." I waited 3 hours before responding. Then I sent, "Sorry, must have slipped my mind. Been a lot on my plate with all the overtime. I'll take care of it tomorrow." I didn't. The next day, she called me 7 times. I let every call go to voicemail. When I walked in that night, she was already mid-meltdown. No internet, an alert about the electric bill being overdue, and, cherry on top, her credit card got declined when she tried to order takeout. Now, she had her own credit card. One I'd been making minimum payments on for months. $250 down the drain every time. When she asked what was going on, I just looked at her and said, "I've been really overwhelmed lately, working 2 jobs, trying to keep up with everything. Maybe it's time you handled some of the bills." Her face froze. You'd think I just told her to sell a kidney. She tried to argue, said I'd always taken care of it before. I didn't fight, just nodded and said, maybe we need to share the load now. Then came the big reveal, not from me, from her. In the middle of her rant, she pulled out her phone, opened her banking app, and showed me the screen like it was supposed to guilt me. $117. That's what she had left for the month. This woman, who had new clothes, weekly manicures, name-brand bags, had just over $100 to her name. She started babbling about how sales at the mall had been slow, how she was waiting on a check, how I was being unfair. But all I could think about was, where has her money gone for the last 3 years if I've been paying for everything? I didn't say that. I just told her I'd see if I could help on payday, and maybe she could pick up an extra shift or two. That shut her up fast. Then there was the matter of Caleb's orthodontist appointment. Another monthly payment was due, $180. Normally, I took him because Emma was too busy. This time, I told her I had a conflict at work. She gave me a glare like I'd spit in her coffee. Fine, she said, but I need the $180 for the payment. I shrugged. I'm a little short this month, with all the unpaid bills. Maybe you can cover it, just this once. She exploded, accused me of being selfish, said I was sabotaging Caleb's health, said I was breaking promises. This from the same woman who once told me I was lucky she'd settled for me. I stayed calm. I'll see what I can do. The day of the appointment, I gave Caleb $90 in an envelope and said, it's all I could manage. Ask your mom for the rest. Then I left. Not to work, but to tour a small apartment I'd been eyeing online. Later that night, I walked into what felt like World War III. Emma was fuming. Apparently, the orthodontist refused to see Caleb without full payment. Emma had to call her sister to Venmo the other $90. Caleb was embarrassed. Emma was furious. Her sister was annoyed. Me? I just acted surprised. Gosh, I'm so sorry, I said. Things have been tight lately. I think I might be stretching myself too thin. That was the night everything started to shift. The next morning, Emma made breakfast. First time in months. She even brought up budgeting, said maybe we should sit down and talk about money, make a plan. I almost laughed out loud. 3 years of treating me like an invisible wallet, and now she wants a partnership? I nodded along, pretending to agree. Meanwhile, I kept preparing my exit. Over lunch breaks, I moved boxes into a storage unit. Chris helped me haul the big stuff. I packed away important papers, keepsakes, anything with meaning. Half my clothes disappeared from the closet. I took the nice kitchen knives, the ones my mom gave me for Christmas. No one noticed. Not even when I took my PlayStation, the one I bought long before Emma and I met. They never noticed anything. And the truth is, they never really saw me. Not as a partner. Not as family. Just a resource. A utility. The moment that confirmed it all came 3 days ago when Emma's sister, the same one who Venmoed her, showed up unannounced. She cornered me in the kitchen and started chewing me out. You're neglecting your responsibilities, she said. You're making Emma miserable. You need to step up and take care of your family. I let her go on. Didn't interrupt. Just waited. And then when she ran out of steam, I calmly asked her when was the last time Emma paid toward the mortgage? Or contributed to Caleb's college fund? Or bought groceries? Or helped with any of the bills? She blinked. I assumed she was contributing. I walked to the desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up the spreadsheet. She scrolled. Her face changed as she went through 3 years of one-sided support. By the end, she just whispered, then where's all her money going? Good question, Terry. A very good question. The day after Terry left my house with that stunned look on her face, I signed a 6-month lease on the studio apartment I'd been eyeing. Small place, barely 400 square feet, but clean, quiet, and best of all, mine. The rent was less than a third of what I'd been bleeding every month to support Emma and Caleb. I didn't move out right away. That would have been too easy. I wanted them to feel it, not out of spite, but so they could finally understand what it was like to live without someone constantly bailing them out. I wasn't disappearing without a trace. I was leaving in a way they couldn't ignore. Over the next few days, I finalized everything with a lawyer friend of Chris's. We went through my obligations, legal, financial, and figured out what I'd still have to pay and what I could stop immediately. I wasn't trying to dump everything and vanish. I just wanted boundaries. Structure. Sanity. I would continue paying half the mortgage since my name was still on the lease. But only that directly to the bank. No more credit card payments, no more DoorDash deliveries, no more emergency orthodontist transfers. I was done being their safety net. My mom called me a few times that week. She could tell something was going on. I eventually told her everything, and to my surprise, she said, "I never liked how she talked to you, but I didn't want to interfere." That stung, but I appreciated her honesty. She told me she was proud of me for finally taking a stand. The morning I left, I packed the rest of my things while Emma and Caleb were out. I left the house keys on the kitchen counter next to a 4-page letter. I didn't write it in anger, just facts. What I'd paid, what I'd sacrificed, how I felt when they laughed while I lay alone on the couch. I included a copy of my new payment plan and told them exactly what they could expect from me moving forward. Nothing more. Nothing less. I'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in my head. But when it happened, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel heartbroken either. I just felt tired. Not sad. Just completely drained. My new apartment isn't much. The kitchenette is so small you can brush your teeth while making coffee. I actually tried that once, out of curiosity. The bed is a futon. The TV is tiny. But for the first time in years, I can breathe. No one judging what I eat. No one complaining about what I watch. No one treating me like an afterthought. The first 2 days after I left? Silence. No texts, no calls. I honestly wondered if they even noticed I was gone. Day 3, my phone lit up. "Emma, where are you? Did you pay the electric bill? Caleb has an ortho appointment tomorrow." Not, "Are you okay?" or "Please come home." Just bills and logistics. Classic Emma. I didn't respond. More messages followed, each more frantic than the last. "The mortgage is due in 4 days. They're shutting off the water. At least answer your damn phone." Still nothing emotional. Just panic because her cash machine walked away. On day 7, I finally got a message from Caleb. That one made me pause. He said the internet had been cut off and he couldn't submit homework. Said Emma had been crying and yelling at him over everything. Asked if I could help with the bills even if you don't want to come back. And for a second, I felt that familiar guilt creeping in. Was I punishing a 14-year-old for his mom's behavior? Then I remembered that day at school, the car door slamming, the venom in his voice. "You'll never be my dad." The look in Emma's eyes when she backed him up. He didn't come up with those words on his own. He heard them from her. That guilt? Gone. Instead of responding, I focused on me. For the first time in a long time. I joined a gym. Started cooking again. Nothing fancy, just food that wasn't frozen or eaten in my car. My blood pressure dropped. I started sleeping through the night. Even my boss noticed. "You seem sharper lately," he said. "You want more responsibility?" For once, I didn't hesitate. I said yes. Week 3, my mom called again. She'd been talking to one of Emma's cousins, a notorious gossip. Apparently, Emma had begged her parents for help with the mortgage. They gave her the money but also gave her a lecture. Her credit cards? Maxed out. Caleb? Had to quit his soccer team, couldn't afford the $500 tournament fee. Their internet and cable were shut off. Emma was using Caleb's phone as a hotspot and burning through his data. I won't lie. A part of me felt satisfied. Not proud, just vindicated. You treat someone like dirt long enough, eventually the ground disappears from under you. Week 4, Emma's tone changed. Her texts became long, emotional. "I miss you. I didn't realize how much you did. The house doesn't feel the same without you. Too little. Way too late." I still didn't respond. But I did check the bills. Mortgage? Paid. Electric and water? Covered. Just the ones I was legally tied to, nothing more. Week 5, I got a voice message from Caleb. He sounded shaken. Said their washing machine broke and he'd been wearing the same jeans to school for 3 days. Kids were teasing him. He mumbled something about being sorry for what he said to me that day, said he was only repeating what his mom always said when I wasn't around. That hit harder than I expected. So that was the final truth. Emma had been poisoning him against me the whole time, using her own son to drive a wedge between us. If I ever had any doubt left about whether I was right to leave, that erased it completely. Week 6, I got a message from Terry, Emma's sister. She wanted to meet. Out of curiosity, I said yes. We met at a coffee shop. She looked rough, dark circles, messy hair, nerves on edge. She said Emma had been sleeping on her couch the past week because they couldn't afford to heat the house. Caleb was staying with their grandparents temporarily. Then Terry slid her phone across the table and said, "You need to see this." Bank statements. From Emma's personal account. For the past year. Almost $1,000 a month to a man named Zach. Her ex. Except clearly not very ex. Car payments, crypto, weekend getaways. All paid by Emma while I worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. I just stared at the screen. There it was. Everything I suspected. Confirmed. I wasn't crazy. I hadn't imagined the distance or the way she checked out of our marriage early on. She'd been funneling money to another man while I broke my back to give her and her son a stable life. I didn't feel rage. I didn't flip the table. I just felt done. Completely, finally, irrevocably done. Exactly 2 months after I walked out of that house, I agreed to meet Emma and Caleb. Neutral ground, a coffee shop downtown, halfway between their neighborhood and mine. I picked the spot. Public, quiet, no dramatic scenes. When they walked in, I barely recognized them. Emma looked like she'd aged a decade, no manicured nails, no designer bag, her hair pulled back like she just didn't have the energy to care. Caleb looked smaller somehow, like he'd shrunk into himself. Eyes down, shoulders curled forward. The cocky teenager who once slammed my car door and called me pathetic? Gone. They both started talking at once. Apologies, regrets, explanations. I said nothing. Just sipped my coffee and waited for the noise to run out. Then I reached into my bag and placed 2 things on the table, a printed spreadsheet and a stack of bank records. The spreadsheet was 3 years of every expense I covered: mortgage payments, groceries, braces, clothes, internet, electricity, gas, school supplies, and more. It was color-coded, dated, totaled. Black and white proof of just how one-sided everything had been. Next to it, Emma's transaction history. Payments to Zach, a man I hadn't even known existed until 2 weeks ago. Emma's face fell like a building collapsing in slow motion. She tried to speak, said Zach had been blackmailing her, that she didn't have a choice, that it was just temporary help. Lie after lie. She said it was over months ago. Then why were you still sending him money last month? I asked. She shut up. I looked at Caleb. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm not coming back, I said calmly. This isn't a negotiation. But I am willing to offer something. That got their attention. I'll help Caleb directly. For school stuff. Medical expenses. Specific needs. Not through you, I said, nodding toward Emma. No more middleman. No more blind transfers. But only under certain conditions. I turned back to Caleb. You'll need to keep your grades up. Show basic respect. No more attitude. No more pretending I don't exist until you need something. He nodded slowly. I get it, he said, barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. For what I said. I didn't mean it. I was just repeating stuff Mom said when you weren't around. Emma's eyes flicked to him, like she couldn't believe he'd said that out loud. I kept my focus on Caleb. I know you're a kid. I'm not blaming you for everything. But choices have consequences. This is yours. He nodded again. This time more firmly. Then I looked at Emma. I'm filing for divorce next week. I'll be fair. But I won't be generous. You'll get what the law says, nothing more. No extra favors. No more saving you from yourself. She didn't argue. Just looked away, blinking rapidly. They left quietly. No more outbursts. No final pleas. A few hours later, Caleb messaged me. He wanted to accept the offer. Said he understood the terms. That he was really sorry and that he finally saw what I'd been doing for them all those years. I told him we'd talk again in a few days, that I needed time. As for Emma, she hasn't contacted me since. And honestly, I think that's for the best. It's been a few weeks since that meeting, and I've been thinking a lot about what it means to rebuild. Not just your finances or your routine, but your entire sense of self. For so long, I thought my worth was tied to what I could provide. To how much I could endure. To how useful I was. But I've learned something. Being a good man doesn't mean being a doormat. Being kind doesn't mean accepting disrespect. Being generous doesn't mean letting people use you until you're empty. Emma didn't break me. Not completely. But she bent me so far I forgot what it felt like to stand straight. And now, for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm standing tall again. The apartment is still small. The shower still floods if I don't clean the drain twice a week. The futon still creaks. But it's mine. Every square foot of it. I wake up without that tight knot in my chest. I don't dread coming home. I've reconnected with friends I lost along the way. Chris comes by on weekends. My mom dropped off a home-cooked meal last week just because. I'm not rich. I'm not dating. I'm not suddenly enlightened or healed. But I'm free. And that's everything. Sometimes, the people you love most will take and take until there's nothing left of you. Sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to walk away, not with fire and fury, but with silence, proof, and a plan. I didn't slam any doors. I didn't shout or scream. I just quietly made sure that when I left, they'd finally notice what they'd lost. And this time, I'm not coming back.